One of the great motivations that I had in coming into SBA was my love for business, my love for small business, recognizing the fact that it's small business in this country that built this country. And really, it will be the success of small business in this country that will sustain it. And so I'm optimistic. May I just give you one reason why? When you consider the activity that we in SBA have, the demands that we have for our programs, I think this in itself is indicative of the health and strength of small business. We can't take care of the demand we have. So we must endorse and solicit the help from communities up and down the line to help us fill part of that great demand that today exists in the small business community. And this to me is very healthy. When you think of drought, certainly economically, you have as much of a disaster as you have when somebody's home is blown down from a tornado, because it's economic in nature. And yet, I think the only one that can make this decision is the president. There are certain functions of government that come into play when the president says this is a disaster. One of them, of course, is the Office of Emergency Preparedness, where there are actual federal funds made available on a grant basis. And then there's our program. We have no grants as such, but we have the availability of making loans under those conditions, which are disaster type loans. Excuse me. Which are disaster type loans. But until such time as the presidential declaration is made, we function within the framework of our present program.
I'm a veteran, and I think that already the unemployment rate of the veterans in America is higher than that of the current national status, and that the supposition by all people that these veterans are in contention with all the veterans is just going to deteriorate it even more.
From your experience, how long did it look to you that they had been in the water before they were found?
I'd say approximately a week.
Were there any personal effects found around them that might indicate that they were robbed or assaulted or anything?
No, there wasn't there at the place. There was not. We found a few odds and ends up close to where we think there was a car parked at one time.
Did you find anything to indicate that they might have been killed there at the tank?
No, we didn't find any indication they'd been killed at the tank.
Increasing the franchise tax by $1.25 per thousand, this adds 75 cents to what was in the House bill. But it does bring in $100 million, and that was put in to answer the criticism of some people saying that it was all consumer-oriented. This does put it on business. And I might add that when this tax bill, should it be adopted, there would be an impact on business. About 40% of the total revenue would come from business. And this is, according to the statistics that I have, is one of the highest business taxes in the entire United States. Of course, that's subject to debate, and I'm sure that there will be an amendment offered on the floor of the Senate to add a corporation income tax.
Because there are only 1,000 of them and 10,000 over the nation, whereas we're 2.5 million.
I'm a veteran, a Vietnam veteran. My name's John McCann. I served with the Marine Corps. I feel that it was wrong for the veterans against the war in Vietnam to display themselves in a manner that would prejudice the honorable service we rendered our country. I feel that for them to depreciate our value by throwing away medals indicates to me that they didn't have to work for those as hard as most of us did.
And you, sir?
I'm Fred Gonzalez, and I served in the Marine Corps. I feel that it was a small minority of 2.5 million veterans that served in Vietnam, and that the majority of the veterans are proud of the job that their country sent them to do and the job that they did do.
Never has one issue been killed so thoroughly as has the rebel theme at UTA. On several occasions, votes were held to determine what the theme of the school should be. Overwhelmingly, each time the rebel theme won. Well, this time, the UTA regents have made sure that's not an eventuality. by prohibiting write-in ballots and by taking the rebel theme off the ballot. So whatever wins, it won't be the rebel theme. I asked some of the students at UTA what they thought should be the theme from the school. I started off with former cheerleader Sandy Jo Langford. She said that she originally supported the rebel theme, but now she's kind of glad they're killing it. The students today are choosing between Mavericks, Rangers, Toros, and Hawks. But really, you couldn't tell there's an election going on because nobody really seems to care. I managed to find some supporters, as you saw, of the Mavericks, found some for Toros, but Hawks and Rangers advocates simply weren't in evidence today. Actually, that's the way it's been at UTA. Nobody really cares anymore. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, University of Texas at Arlington.
The continuing political squabble in Balch Springs in southeast Dallas County has finally boiled over. That is, into the resignation of the police chief and his officers. This political squabble, which has pitted Councilman Chumley, Jackson, and Carter against Councilman Pickle, Buchanan, and Mayor Renfro, has been brewing for some time. We talked with a number of the participants today, including the resigned police chief, F.T. Marshall. I asked if the accusations, both personal and administrative, are true. Chief Marshall and the others in private, illegal meetings.
No, sir, it wasn't illegal. Any citizen could have sat in on it, but it was discussing personnel, and he didn't say anything about wanting an open meeting or a closed meeting, so as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't an illegal meeting.
What happens to the city now?
We advertise for chief of police and a lieutenant and take applications for patrolmen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter. Well, what happens now to the city of Balch Springs? Not today or tomorrow, but in the future. What is the future for this city? That's the question we pose to Mayor L.D. Renfro.
To correct the problem of personnel, I think civil service or home rule charter would be the proper thing for the city of Balch Springs.
Do you think this would solve the city's problems?
It would help in solving the problems.
You've had mass resignations out here. What about you as mayor? Are you going to resign?
I've fought them for 7 years, and I have no intentions of resigning.
Well, the disagreements may continue, but Mayor L.D. Renfro is doing his best to protect the residents in the meantime. He has asked for and received the help of the Dallas County Sheriff's Office and the Texas Department of Public Safety. From Balch Springs, this is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News on the Move.
We have established our position. Our position is very clear that it's a great compromise on the part of the Palestinians to accept the non-indigenous Jew who migrated into Palestine with the idea of setting up an exclusively Jewish state, a supremacist type of state, a racialist type of state in our midst, and excluding the indigenous Palestinian. We have established as a compromise that even that type of Palestinian, if he is going to disavow himself from that type of mentality, will have the opportunity to live as an equal partner in the development and the growth of our society. And we consider that to be a step in the direction of a permanent and lasting peace.
What chance do you think the conflict in the Middle East has of developing into a third world war?
I'm sure that depends on those countries that have been making it as an integral part of their policy to continue to arm an aggressor, a state that has committed to itself to expansion at the expense of other Arab territory. It depends on the policies of that particular power, whether it wants to see the confrontation in the area remain as a regional confrontation or develop into a global confrontation.
By that power, you mean the United States?
The country that has been arming Israel up to its teeth, the countries that has been insisting that 3 million Israelis should maintain the balance of power with more than 100 million Arabs.
Everything you see on this table in front of me is disposable, from the plastic coffee cups to the paper milk containers and plastic pepper and salt shakers, paper tablecloths, placemats, and everything. This luncheon was given by the Southwest Paper Merchants Association to dramatize the disposability of their wares. Well, this is all well and good, except for the fact that environmentalists over the past few years have been complaining about disposable items, saying that the burning of such items pollutes the air, the burying of them is eventually going to run us out of land space, and the litter from them is overrunning our streets and highways. I asked Southwest Paper Merchants Association Executive Secretary Banks Miller what the industry is doing about all this.
Well, it's going to be condensed down into a very small bag. This means it will not be blowing anywhere, not be in anybody's yard or out in the street, and the small bag can be disposed of either by burning or by burying.
Doesn't this contribute to pollution of the atmosphere?
Not particularly, because we would hope that at least in this part of the country, with our air as it is now, the smoke would be blown away, and I think really we're aiming for more for burying of this stuff.
Banks Miller says that yes, the paper industry is concerned about ecology. To dramatize this, at this luncheon, when the members finished eating, they took their plates, napkins, spoons, forks, knives, cups, everything, and compressed them in one of the new trash compactors on the market, thus enabling the individual homeowner, or in the case of this luncheon, the Paper Merchants Association, to dispose of them neatly, either by burning or by burying, but the litter, at least, won't get all over the streets and highways. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
We're in the process of honoring people.
The NB Ranch in Roanoke, between Dallas and Fort Worth, owned by Bunker Hunt. The grazing area is specially designed for the enrichment of Charolais cattle. On this ranch, Bunker, as he's known throughout the nation, ramrods the biggest Charolais spread in the world. Today, cattle buyers and breeders from as far away as Canada took seats inside this tent and began making their choices as the NB Ranch started trimming its herd by about 1,600 female head.
I'm 15 order down 16. I get 15 there now, but give me 16. I'm not bringing me down 15 order D, number 16 order now 17. I'm not bringing me down 18. I'm not bringing me down 17, number 18 order I get 17, 19. I get 18, now 19. I'm not bringing me down now 20 order I get 19. Get number 20 order I get 19 there. D number $20,000 order D on the 20 order I get 19 and now $20,000 order I get 19 and now 20.
Just before the sale started, Bunker took a few minutes to talk with Channel 8's Murray Cox about the sale and the world-famous Charolais.
Murray, we're selling 250 French Charolais cattle, and that doesn't include the calves.
This is today. What about tomorrow and next day?
Tomorrow we'll be selling 500 heifers, mostly half French Charolais, and then the following 2 days, Thursday and Friday, an additional approximately 600 cattle. I think we originally programmed 1,700, but there's some less now.
Tomorrow's sale will be held in Terrell, and then back here Thursday and Friday for the final 2 days of the 4-day event. Before the final bang of the gavel marks the last sale, it's estimated that more than $1 million will have changed hands. The tent, the steel pens, the comfortable bleachers, cattle trading's come a long, long way in the last 100 years. Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move in Roanoke.
I'm letting them handle.
Well, I would have been more than willing to leave if they had taken the department out of the politics and left them alone.
What do you mean by this?
I mean that I would have been willing to sacrifice my job to save the men's jobs if I thought it would have done some good.
But now you don't have a job and they don't have a job. What happens?
We start looking for jobs.
What happens to the city?
The city, we'll let Mr. Carter, Chumley, and Jackson worry about that.
Thank you, Chief. Well, of course, the opposition was led, as he mentioned, by Councilman Chumley, Jackson, and Carter. We talked to P.W. Carter today and asked if he was happy with the developments.
I think it was a victory for the people of Balch Springs. It might not seem like it to a few individuals right now, but I'm positive that it was a victory for Balch Springs.
They might as well, because this cheerleader this year, it just wasn't standing up as it should, and everybody was real disappointed and real down, and it was just better that they do away with the whole thing as to just give us scripts and scrapes of it.
Why aardvarks? Well, the aardvark has been slighted in song and story throughout the history of man, and we feel it's time for a change. The horned aardvark, of course, is a superior beast, but all aardvarks deserve representation, and we hope to see UTA in its grandest moments representing the aardvark.
Why Mavericks? Well, Mavericks is more of a Texan theme to me than any of the other choices we have, and even more so than the Rebel theme, which was abolished.
These 64 children and their parents have come to the Dan D. Rogers School today to get a look at what it's going to be like when they start school next September. Channel 8 News decided we'd take a look too.
I hope not. Bob Briner hasn't indicated there will be any serious contention, points of contention on the contract. I don't foresee any difficulties at this point. We hope to make a deal. We've agreed on the dollar figure, basically, and depending on these points that we're going to hammer out, we should have a deal, and Stan will be playing ball in Dallas.
Stan, was the dollar figure the deciding factor, assuming that remains as is?
I would have to say that it is, definitely is.
Now, Baltimore, as I understand it, was given an opportunity to come back. Did they match or top the figure that Dallas offered?
Well, that you should really ask my brother that question because of the financial end of it.
Baltimore has come back, and they've made a tremendous deal. You know, we'll be talking to them tomorrow. They wanted us to come into Baltimore. We don't know if we're going to go to Baltimore or not, though.
To say what is on our hearts to a great man and a great mayor and our great friend. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas the Honorable Eric Johnson, as distinguished mayor of the city of Dallas, has been a member of the Dallas Public Transit Board for more than 7 years, and whereas he is now relinquishing the office of mayor after having served 3 history-making terms. In presenting this, Eric, we do so with our warmest regards, our great love for you as a man, and for your service to our city.
You're talking about rummy pigeon ship, I think. This fellow thinks that I'm his principal source of income, although I haven't played with him much for a long, long time. He used to look at me that way.
Maybe you'll have time now to play some gin rummy, because I can tell you that retirement beats hell out of working. Who killed that?
Well, I am sure that it will radicalize the Arab position with regard to the situation in the Middle East as a whole. I am also more inclined that it will be a step in the direction where other Arab countries may eventually join. Moreover, I am more inclined to believe that this is going to create a new balance in the strategical outlook with regard to the confrontation that we have.
Do you ever foresee peace in the Middle East?
Oh, yes. I am more inclined to believe that peace ultimately will come to the Middle East, a just and lasting peace, a peace which is based on the forces that will bring people together rather than disrupt the relationship that exists between people, a peace that will be based on rejecting the forces of alienation, of evil, peace which is based on the establishment of a secular, democratic, pluralistic state in Palestine for all the people of Palestine, irrespective of their faith, where the Muslim, the Christian, and the Jew can live side by side and discover what unites them together as human beings rather than what separates them. That type of peace, I'm sure, eventually will come.